All right, so hello everybody. My name is Nick Lauer, and today I am interviewing Mr. Dustin Aldrich. He was born 7/6/1987, and his highest rank was E4 Corporal. And yeah, I know him as a friend. He used to play on my Minecraft server, so I've known him for like 5 years. But I'm just starting to talk to him again, and yeah, so. And you served in, or you were deployed for Inherent Resolve, you said?
Yes.
So what was that mission, or what was that all about?
Well, you hear a lot about different deployments. Some units deploy to Africa, some to Korea. That's where my current unit is. They're going to be coming back here in a couple months. Afghanistan, Iraq, stuff like that. There are different operations that the U.S. government has. You can look up online and you can see the list of operations going clear back to the 1800s. It's just a way for the government to identify, hey, this is what's currently going on in our military operations. Right now, Operation Inherent Resolve involves Iraq and Syria. Um, when I was deploying, we were just barely getting into stuff dealing with Syria. Um, so we were stationed in Kuwait, which is a well-known base, Camp Beering. Um, you can look it up. It's a pretty small place.
Hmm.
There's a couple of bases, and of course, due to OPSEC, it can't really give a whole lot of information
Right.
dealing with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Because you're
it's just
still serving, right?
National Guard, yes,
Yeah. Okay.
and I'll be up in July here, so not too much longer.
Hmm. So how long have you been like involved with the military then?
Um, I enlisted March 22nd of 2011. Went to basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky, as a 19 Delta Cavalry Scout. We're reconnaissance specialists. I don't know if you've ever heard we were soldiers. Um, we're the first ones in, last ones out in a sense. Our job primarily is to conduct reconnaissance within the area. So they'll send us in and we'll locate the enemy, identify where the enemy is at, um, try to keep a low profile because that's our job. Is we're supposed to be um, pretty much death dealers of the night.
Yeah.
It's who we are,
Hmm.
ninjas in a sense.
Yeah.
Um, so if we do take contact, our job is to break contact. We don't stay and fight unless we absolutely have to. Our job is just to get information up to higher command.
Okay. So what was like that camp like in where'd you say it was? Fort Knox?
Are you talking about Camp Beering overseas?
Like your basic training and stuff, I guess.
Okay,
How that?
yeah, Fort Knox.
Yeah.
You want to know about basic training? How that went? I mean, I can remember basic training like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Um, I was really nervous getting on that plane. I left Salt Lake a few days prior, and there was three of us that left Salt Lake together. Um, I don't I don't talk to the other two anymore. We haven't for some time. They ended up getting out for other reasons, and that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, Soldiers make dumb mistakes, and it costs them their careers. So um, it was interesting. We got there about nighttime. I would say it was probably like 12 o'clock, midnight when we got there. Drill sergeants took us in. Um, let's see, I probably got about 4 hours of sleep that night
Wow.
because wake up was probably about 3 or 4. We were held in what they call the reception area for like a couple weeks. Um, it's just to pretty much get us situated. We'll get all of our gear at that time. Um, there's about 3 or 4 drill sergeants that oversee the reception area. Um, Pretty much what happens is you pick up all your gear. It's a chance for you to experience a little bit of what it's going to be like. They didn't really have us doing push-ups at the time. or anything like that. We did get yelled at a lot. Of course,
Yeah.
you got to expect that. There was a lot of hurry up and wait. I mean, I remember standing in formation at attention for hours on end, waiting for the drill sergeants to come out.
Wow.
It was pretty cold. It snowed a few times, from what I can remember. There's a lot of details. You had to clean up a lot, just stuff to keep us busy. Primarily, what it wasn't. It was either April 1st or April 11th is when we initially went to what they consider our basic portion of the military. It's where we transferred ourselves from the reception hall, and we finally went to where we were staying. So they put us on a white bus, and we went to the barracks we were going to be staying in for the remainder of our basic training. Because our basic training and what they call AIT, which is their individual training. It's you have basic training, which teaches you basic soldiering skills, and then you have your AIT, which teaches you about your MOS, what your job is going to be in the Army, and that is all together. I believe most combat arms are that way. They have them in the same, so you're stuck with those same drill sergeants the entire time you're there.
Okay.
You don't get what they call a platoon sergeant. You'll find that in most support elements where they'll you go from basic training and then you go to a different duty station and complete your AIT there, your schooling there. I guess it depends on, like you said, what your job skill is, what you choose to do in the Army.
Yeah.
So we get off the bus and you've got drill sergeants just sitting there. I remember his name was Drill Sergeant Barfield at the time. I don't know if he's still in. A lot of these guys, incredible guys. Now that I look back, just the stuff they have to deal with on a daily basis, especially being able to teach civilians and train them to form them into combat machines.
Yeah.
It takes a lot. We could see the stress that it caused, because they're away from their family a lot of the time. So they don't get to spend a whole lot of time with their family because they're with us. Mm-hmm. So he got on the bus, started yelling at everybody to get off the bus and see people running. And that's the purpose. It's what they call the shark attack. You got several drill sergeants yelling they're trying to get emotion out of you. They're trying to get some sort of response out of you. And you see people fumbling their bags. You see them dropping, and drill sergeants just gathering all around them and just yelling at them, telling them to get up, not moving fast enough. And finally, they got us situated to where they broke us up in our platoons. For our troop, which is Bravo Troop 515, I was in what they call first platoon, which was on the main floor. We had 3 floors. You had the first floor, the second floor, and the third floor, each divided by platoons, which we had our respective colors, red, white, and blue. But sometimes you'll see that there's four platoons. We were the last troop going through for basic training at Fort Knox. They're currently moving the armor division down to Georgia at the time. So a lot of our stuff was kind of gone already. Like the Cav Museum had already moved.
Yeah.
Things like that. And basic training, it went by slow, but it went by fast, if that makes any sense. There were days where it just dragged on, and there was days where it was fun.
Yeah.
There were days when I hated life. It was like, I can't do this anymore. I want to give up. But that's the job. It's what you're supposed to do. They're going to break you down into, in a way that where you feel like you can't push yourself. And it's their job to teach you that, to pretty much keep pushing you to say, hey, you can take more, you can keep going. That's what it's designed for. In my opinion, I think that's it's changed a lot, especially with the new generation coming in. You see a lot of NCOs that do see that the military, in a sense, what they consider is getting soft. I know our drill sergeants have talked about green cards, stress cards is what they call them. If a drill sergeant you felt was being, I guess, too much of a drill sergeant, you could pull this green card out and he would have to leave you alone for a little bit. And it's like, the point of going through basic training is you got to learn that discipline. You're not to question your NCOs. You're not to question anything. You do what they tell you to, because that's important, especially when you go to war.
Yeah.
If you start questioning everything, then it could get you or your fellow members killed. But yeah, that's we were talking about the way soldiers are supposed to be disciplined. That's the job of the drill instructors, drill sergeants, is to break you down, mold you into what soldiers should be.
But now they get green cards?
Well, I think they did away with those. It was kind of like an experimental thing.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw them in basic training. I remember we used to get phone calls every so often. I'm being told now, the new recruits coming in, it's like, yeah, we get our cell phones every weekend for like an hour. It's like stuff I had a payphone to use. I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. We were lucky because the little shopette that was there had like those burner phones, little track phones that we could use. But it went by pretty quick. I mean, there's a lot that the drill sergeants had to teach you in such a small amount of time. What they did the best they could. I know they go through a heck of a time learning what they need to do to be drill sergeants. That's one thing that I looked at doing when I was still in, because it was interesting to me, having that ability to be able to inspire and help motivate, help train the new generation coming in. For AIT portion, it was a little more relaxed. We started getting into, we did a lot of classroom outside to teach us about our skills, what we were going to do as far as reconnaissance. We had little missions that they had us do. Mm-hmm. There was a few times where we went out in what they called sticks. It's to set up, it's to train you. They had us like in a little camp area, what we call like a little fob, where we'd set up tents and we'd stay there. Drill sergeants would go around, they'd throw off little artillery sim rounds. So you hear the big whistle go off, and then you'd have to run to a bunker with your weapon. And then the platoon guide would go around, make sure that everyone is accounted for, that there's no casualties. If there was casualties, we'd have to perform what they consider CLS, which is combat life-saving skills. Mm-hmm. Each soldier is taught that. It's kind of like basic medical skills to help save your individual in case something happens until a medic arrives or gets your location.
So was there like a thing that you were really good at, or like people thought like your main skill, like during training and stuff, or something you discovered about yourself maybe?
I wouldn't say it was anything that we were really good at. A lot of it is like most things. You get what you put into it, in a sense. If that makes any sense to you.
Yeah.
The more you apply yourself to certain things, the better you're going to be at it. That's the way it was. And you've seen that through the different individuals that you became brothers with going through basic training. We had a lot of people that it just didn't fit for. They didn't like it. And some of them ended up getting kicked out for it. Mm-hmm. Like for me, I guess being a leader, that was one of the
Oh,
good things that's one of the things I enjoyed. Finally making NCO rank and being able to um, effectively lead a squad of your peers. Not only getting input from them, because um, the emphasis is teamwork. Um, your slowest person or your weakest link is pretty much going to be your downfall. But if you work as a team, you fill in those gaps, and you're able to execute things the way you should in a quick, timely manner. That's why they always, when we were doing push-ups and stuff like this, they'd always tell us attention to detail, because we had to be aware of everything that was going on, and then teamwork is key. That's
yeah.
the main focus that they had. Is without teamwork, you're gonna eventually get yourself killed.
Yeah. During your like wartime service, was there like details of a trip abroad or something, or like actions
Well,
witnessed when you were in combat or?
being overseas, being away from home, that was stressful enough. Um, and sometimes it brings on a lot of anxiety because there's stuff going on at home
Yeah.
that you can't really take care of because you're so far away.
Hmm.
That's the biggest struggle that most soldiers have. But you have to keep that stuff out of your mind, as if you don't, it's going to affect your current training. Um, that's why it's never good for um, like, well, let's put it this way: I had to deal with a soldier who was essentially suicidal. Um, as his junior leader, I had to go in and make sure I took him straight to the hospital like I should have. They treated him there. Let my NCOs know. As far as casualties go, we didn't have to witness any of that. I did hear a few things. Somebody got like a finger blown off, that kind of thing, due to a mortar round. It was training. Stuff
Yeah.
like that does happen, even in the training environment.
Hmm.
One of our sister units, in 234 Armor from First Brigade, Fort Riley, they had about three Humvees, or maybe it was one, but ended up doing a rollover,
Oh.
ejected everybody out of the Humvee. Um, so one of our medics that was nearby, they took off and helped assist these individuals to get them to the hospital. From my understanding, one of them ended up being paralyzed. I believe it was probably the gunner that was sitting inside, and that's why they stressed. They actually changed some of our policies. We had to wear our full kit whenever we were inside the vehicle, because
Hmm.
we were doing what they consider soft. It's where we didn't have to wear a kit if we weren't, um, unless we were going outside what we call the wire, outside the fob area, going into training. But they required it at all times after that. Just simple things like that we don't even think about affect you in the long run.
Yeah.
Um, I guess the biggest thing is the stress. It doesn't matter whether you're in a combat situation or not; it's still going to get to you. You're still going to get that anxiety. Um, you're still going to have those long days where you just want to go to sleep. You've got so much stuff to do, and you
Yeah.
don't get that option.
So, did you go into the service with any friends or family at the time, or like what inspired you to
No,
go in, I guess?
it was always a dream of mine. It was one of my goals. I tried to right outside of high school, and they told me I couldn't. Um, I had some medical issues that I had to get a waiver for, which that allowed me to actually go in. Um, a lot of people told me that I probably wouldn't make it through basic training, just because they consider that when most people talk about the military, they think it's tough, that it's for the thick skin, stuff like that. It's not for the weak in mind. Um, it does test you quite a bit. It was one of my dreams, and I pushed for it because I wanted to prove people wrong. That
Yeah.
I could make it, that I could do it. And I enjoyed every minute of it.
So I'm sure it was hard being overseas and like not really. Did you like have opportunity to communicate with family at all, or just very
Oh yeah,
limited amount of times, or all the time?
I had I had a lot of time to communicate. Usually at night when we weren't doing anything.
Yeah, playing
We
Minecraft.
had Yep, that was one of them.
Yeah.
You got to keep yourself. It's one of the things that the Army had to introduce. It's resilience time. Pretty much just to keep your mind at bay while you're overseas. That's why they created the MWR, and facilities for us to actually get away from the day-to-day activities we're over there. Like they had theaters set up for us. We can go and watch movies. Um, they had places where we can go and play on the computer, stuff like that. They had a pool there at one of the bases.
Huh.
So they try to accommodate as much as they can. The food there was amazing, better than what we had in the U.S. I
Really?
won't lie. Oh yeah.
So you didn't
Um,
you didn't have to do with MREs then?
oh yeah, we still had to deal with MREs,
Yeah.
especially if we're out training. They've, from what I'm told, they've gotten better over the years.
Yeah.
They're really not that bad. If you ever want to try one, you can probably find one at a surplus store or go to one of the military bases and pick one up. I think
Mm-hmm.
they're like $11, something like that, for one. I wouldn't say it's it. You can try it once and decide if you like it or not.
Yeah.
A lot of times there's troops out there that don't get the hot chow that we do, the steak and crab every Friday, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you're right. There are times where you're in that situation where you don't get to have food. I would hear stories from my counterparts when they were deployed to Afghanistan when I first came in, um, where they were short on supplies because they had a hard time getting a run through, or they'd have to go get supplies and hump back. Um, so that's why we try not to take um, for granted what we do have. So when we did have time to talk with our family, it was nice.
Yeah.
Getting they still had the option of we get care packages in the mail. Sometimes they took up to about 2 weeks to get here to
Wow.
to Kuwait or Jordan, but we eventually got them, which is nice, because it's a little something from home.
Any other like stories that you might have, or like less other lessons, life lessons maybe you could share with my classmates from serving?
I would say if you guys have the option to look into joining the military, it is a fulfilling career. Some people aren't going to like it because it's not for everybody, but it definitely gives you a different perspective on the world after you've been in. Um, I won't lie, there's days where I hated being in the Army. Um, I hated the day in, day out of doing the same thing. But, I took for granted for the stuff that we did have because civilians, you have to work for everything. The government provides everything pretty much for you in the Army, or
Yeah.
should I say military in general. Your health care is provided for you, vision, dental, um, your basic medical, all of your medical.
Yeah. So was it like hard transitioning back to civilian life?
It was, simply because you got to go out, you got to find that job. Um, you got to set yourself back up for interviews. You got to put your resume together, stuff that you don't really think about. Because the military is a solid job. It's a guaranteed paycheck. All you have to do is show up in the right uniform. You got to pass your PT test, your physical fitness tests, and then just do what you're supposed to do. That's it, and you get
Yeah.
that paycheck. It's the easiest job in the world. A lot of people complain, and yeah, there's downsides. You gotta sign your life away for however many years you decide to, but I wouldn't trade it for. I If I could do it all over again, I would.
Did you make a lot of friends like when you were in the military, and like do you still talk to them at all, or?
I pretty much talk to a lot of people that because in a sense you build a camaraderie that you wouldn't with people that, like, say you have your friends in high school, right?
Right.
I don't talk to anybody pretty much really in high school that I used to. Um, the people that I do talk to are the people that I formed a bond with, and you will do that in the military. You know, a lot of people don't understand that. I'm sure you've watched the movie Band of Brothers
Yeah.
or Pacific. That's what happens is you build that core because that's something that no one else understands, especially in civilian perspective.
Right.
Whether we're veterans or active duty, we take care of our own no matter what.
So you said you were gonna consider maybe going back in the military, right?
Yeah. The reason why I'd go back in is because I enjoyed the camaraderie. You know, you didn't have to deal with the stupid stuff. You didn't have to deal with the, I'm not going to say civilians are stupid.
Petty, like like petty drama and stuff, like just dumb things.
It's like I found myself back in high school again, having to deal with the drama of coworkers. It's like I don't have time to deal with this. I get frustrated. I get irritated. It's like you just have to sit there and laugh. It's because they don't understand.
Yeah.
You're built up to this. You have a job, you do it. You don't complain about it. You can bicker about it later, but you're focused on the job and getting it done. That's what we're trained to do. To pretty much go off of what you're asking me, it's like, yeah, I do love this country. Regardless of the turmoil that we're in, I would continue to fight for what I believe in. Some people think we're fighting for the oil field. Some people believe we're fighting just to start stuff. But as a soldier, I'm doing what my nation is asking me to do. Regardless, I'm fighting for my loved ones back home, my friends, my family. That's why I do it. I don't do it for the glory. Because essentially when you're in, you get sick of hearing, thank you for your service. It's what we consider a job, pretty much. I was like, how often do people actually thank you for doing your job?
Right.
You know, I understand we put our lives on the line, but the people that do more than we will ever do, I would say are first responders, or firefighters, are police officers, because they're in this crap daily, where we're deployed maybe 9 months to a year at a time. If I didn't have the military, I'd probably be still making $9-10 an hour instead of the 15, 16 plus that I'm making now. It's, even though it doesn't really seem much, I think the highest paying job I was getting was about $20 an hour at the PD when I was still in Kansas. And that's about typical for a state job, but you're not going to find anything like that. I know a lot of kids are complaining about not getting $15 an hour for a minimum wage. But it's like, well, those jobs are for when you're in high school anyway. That's why you go on to college and stuff like that. But like I said, college is getting expensive where kids can't even afford that. So it's like, if you really want your college paid for, go to the military. Mm-hmm. It's 3 to 4 years, depending on what branch you go to. And then that's your college is pretty much paid for. You can go from there. So it's like, you do what you want in life. You know, the choices you make are going to affect you in the long run, whether you go to the military or not. You know, it's all up to them. You guys have so much potential. You have no idea. You have a lot of stuff that we didn't really have available to us now. So it's up to you.
All right, cool. Well, thanks a lot for giving me like 2 hours of your time or whatever. We had a lot of issues setting it up, but yeah, thanks a lot, Dustin.
Hey, brother. Anything for you guys.